All right, y'all. So I don't really know what just happened. I just went live for Supergirl, and for some reason, the audio absolutely crapped out on me. So I apologize for that. We're going live again. What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to We Sibz West Coast, East Coast Siblings, where we break down your favorite movies and TV shows. Tonight, we're talking episode 2 of Supergirl, and I was really impressed with this episode. I think it's moving in a great direction for this final season. So before we dive into it, be sure to hit the subscribe button, click the bell, and subscribe. I already said that. So hit me up in the comments below as we discuss this episode, which I thought was really good. Two primary things we got to focus on. Number one, Supergirl's still stuck in the Phantom Zone. Number two, Lex Luthor wins. That's right. So starting with Lex, he's dealing with the aftermath of basically trying to brainwash everyone into loving him, which is really pathetic when you think about it. So there's a whole bunch going on with Lena and her mother, Lillian Luthor, okay? As Lillian's trying to manipulate both sides of the situation, she appeals to Lena earlier in the episode saying, oh, well, I'll sell my shares to you so you can have controlling interest over LexCorp or the Luthor name, and that way you can just do whatever you want with the company and get back at Lex that way. Well, that doesn't sit right with Lena, and she wants to do everything that she can in order to take him down, including possibly incriminating herself and going to jail herself. So she's really serious about this. And now with her new friends in Supergirl and the whole gang, she's very loyal to them, and she wants to bring down Lex at all costs. So that doesn't sit right with Lillian. And so by the end of the episode, Lex ends up convincing the entire jury that he is innocent. And the episode ends with Lillian Luthor actually siding with Lex now and using him. So she's just been manipulating both of her kids. But what I liked about this episode is Lex is finally getting into what we know of Lex Luthor from the comics, that manipulative personality where it's not necessarily tricks or whatever he's doing. He's not brainwashing the world, but he's such a master manipulator. That's how we get things like President Lex Luthor in the comic books and in other stories. All of it comes from his ability to manipulate people and control the way they think to have them doing his bidding. So that's something that's definitely coming down the road as Lex Luthor increases in power now, teaming up with his mother and being a goody-goody in the eyes of the regular folks and the news and all that. So I really like the direction that Lex is going here. The second thing, obviously, about this episode is Supergirl is still trapped in the Phantom Zone. Now, here she meets sort of her father, and he's like a shell of himself. So he's had the Phantoms just attacking him, tormenting him night and day for pretty much an eternity, and it's changed who he is to the point where he does not even want to fight to escape, and that's just not going to sit well with Supergirl. And I agree. Like, I would rather fight every day to escape someplace like the Phantom Zone than to stare at cave walls for the rest of my life. I think she even said as much. And so she's like, whatever we got to do, we're going to catch a Phantom and ride them right out of this portal. Which, by the way, two things. Number one, when you're dealing with things like the Phantom Zone, it seems like they would call in somebody like Clark or at least the Flash. According to, if I'm remembering correctly, Crisis on Infinite Earths ended with them still being able to reach out to other big names in the DC universe, in the Arrowverse, and certainly when you're dealing with something as big as Supergirl, one of the big dogs in the Arrowverse, most powerful people on the planet, you would want to bring in other big heroes in order to free them. And I understand it's a TV show, and they maybe don't have as many collaborations because of what's happening globally right now. But it just seems like realistically to the story, this situation would call for a Superman, a Flash, somebody being involved. And especially Superman, because he has knowledge of the Phantom Zone. He's dealt with it before in the past in comics and several different medias. He's trapped people like Zod in the Phantom Zone, etc. So it's meant to hold very, very powerful beings. He even trapped Doomsday in the Phantom Zone at one point. So you're talking a serious prison, which is interesting because the Phantoms pretty much get out of there very easily with the help of portals, which brings me to the one scene in which Dreamer and Jon Jones and Magan and Alex, they were all fighting these three Phantoms that had gotten out of a portal. And correct me if I'm wrong. No, I mean, I saw the episode. Jon Jones was thinking at them, and maybe the Phantoms don't take physical damage like normal people do. Although that wouldn't explain why people like Magan and all these other physical based people were able to fight them. But you have a character in Jon Jones who's arguably his power is near that of Superman himself and Supergirl, and he doesn't throw a single punch in the entire fight. I think it's because realistically the fight would have been over very quickly. The Phantoms are strong, but certainly the folks of like Supergirl with her powers, Jon Jones, Superman, they could take a Phantom, but Jon's just sitting there thinking at them. And there's not a lot to criticize in this episode. I do think that this episode and the season as a whole is moving in a great direction. For this being the last season, we've got plenty of action, decent storylines, certainly much better than The Flash is doing right now in its 7th season. But I digress. I'm not going to go crazy, not going to go on a tangent there. But no, I thought that the episode was really good. But that was just one of the weird points about it, with Jon Jones not really fighting at all. Now, speaking of the Wraiths, speaking of these Phantoms from the Phantom Zone, one of them escapes into one of the characters we meet in this episode, who's basically where all of the Earthlings get their Dracula stories from. He's an alien, and he comes from some weird planet. But basically, all the myths and legends about him, sucking people's blood and killing them, he actually just went to blood banks because he didn't want to kill people. So, so that's an interesting origin for Dracula in this Arrowverse. But he gets possessed, I guess, or just inhales a phantom, and it comes back later in the episode and totally like jacks him up, and he's like, passed out on the floor. But yeah, so one of the Phantoms escapes. So we're gonna need Supergirl out sooner rather than later. And it seems like probably in the next episode, she'll get back into the real world. We dealt a little bit with Alex's character in this episode. Alex talking about, I can't save my sister. And honestly, I've always had an issue with Alex just because of her. I mean, she's got a super suit, right? I feel like you have to deserve a super suit. You have to actually have powers. And Alex Danvers is very much a human being, and don't get me wrong, it looks cool and stuff like that, but it's like you're really just an agent. And I get it, maybe Black Widow and stuff, like they all have their super suits, but Alex was dealing with her basic incompetence when it comes to these types of things, Phantom Zone and all these things that are getting just a little over her abilities. I mean, even Dreamer has a better chance against some of these creatures with her actual powers than I would think Alex Danvers does. And I know with her whole thing, they're going the Batman route, saying just because you don't have powers doesn't mean you can't be a valuable asset to the team. Of course, Alex has been valuable in the past, but I just think that she was hitting on one of the points that really resonates with her character, which is that eventually she is a man amongst gods. She's a human being amongst people like Jon Jones, McGon, Supergirl, even Brainiac. I mean, I know he's kind of depowered in this, but Brainiac is from the future and has a vast amount of knowledge that people in this time just don't have access to. So So that happened in this episode. Lex Luthor happened in this episode. Supergirl being trapped in the Phantom Zone happened in this episode. So those are the main points from this episode as a whole. And I think that I think it's going in a great direction. I do hope that we get to see a few Arrowverse characters, because this is the last season of Supergirl season 6. And I think they want to send Melissa off with a great, kind of send off. Let me get to some of the comments here. Of course, Lex won. Lex is real good in this episode. Of course, yeah. John Cryer. I mean, he's fantastic. It took me a minute to warm up to him, but certainly in the last episode and in this episode, he's really owning that Lex Luthor persona, kind of annoying type, but brilliant. And I think he's doing it really, really well. So yeah, I totally agree with the comment there. But I think this season is shaping up to be pretty good, even really good. It has its spots here and there where it can develop a little bit more. But you've got action. You've got decent story, nothing too stupid. Like they're not talking to the villains to get them to stop. They're actually fighting. I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop hating on the Flash. We covered the Flash tonight as well. Episode 6 we did, so that's on there if you want to watch something next in the CW verse. Also, a new show, Kung Fu, is coming on tomorrow. So if you guys want to see me cover that, go ahead and let me know with a comment down in the comment section below. But we'll be keep it locked here because we're covering everything. We did the season finale of Walking Dead. We do Supergirl, and well, obviously Supergirl and the Flash and all those shows. So a lot of fun stuff. So you want to keep it locked here. Obviously covering what's happening with the Snyder Cut, what's happening with the new Black Widow trailer, the new Loki trailer came out. I've been covering it all. So keep it locked here. Sydney and I are going to be, just blitzing all this content that's coming out in what's shaping up to be a pretty hectic and exciting summer. So thank you guys so much for watching. You know what to do. If you're liking the channel, hit the like button, subscribe, and click the bell. And we will see you guys in the next one. Peace.